Good morning, everybody. And yeah, so excited. Welcome to part one of our Circular Entrepreneur Series, Reimagining Waste. And we are very, very excited to be hosting three entrepreneurs that are on the Nedbank ReNEW program. We've got Eben, Orion, and Sofiso from their respective companies. And just before we get into things, I just wanted to touch a little bit on the program and who's going to be speaking today. So my name is Gabriella. I am from Circular South Africa, and I will be hosting the session. I will be doing an intro and a welcome, and then we'll have the other Gabriella from Nedbank, who will be introducing us a little bit to the Nedbank ReNEW program. Then Max from Impact Amplifier will be following, and he'll also just be giving us a quick update on the program, how the group and one-on-one accelerator is going. And then we'll be moving on to our three entrepreneurs who I'm sure you're all very keen to hear from. So we've got Eben from Skubu or Sonke. We've got Orion from LiquidGold Africa, and we've got Sofiso from Urban Surfer. So the plan is that all the presentations are going to go in succession from one another for the entrepreneurs. And if you have any questions, you are most welcome to pop them in the Q&A. But we've just structured it so that we've got enough time at the end for everyone to engage with the entrepreneurs. So without further ado, I'm just going to give a quick intro to Circular South Africa for those of you who are here for the first time. So Circular South Africa is an organization that amplifies the potential and value of the just circular economy across South Africa. So why a circular economy? South Africa's extractive-based economy has led to resource depletion, social inequality, and environmental degradation. And what the circular economy does is provide South Africa with a regenerative alternative. So the fundamental principles are designing out waste and pollution, keeping materials at their highest value, and regenerating natural systems. But we at Circular South Africa have also added a fourth, which is really relevant to the context that we live in, which is benefiting all members of society. And really, this is a call to shift from our linear economy, which is based off of a take, make, and waste model, to a circular economy. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about that now. So I think what's important is that circularity is more than recycling. It really is a systems approach that engages with much more than what we know as sort of waste management. And so I just wanted to show you here, this is a value hill, and we just want to consider this. And what this basically shows is the linear economy on the left-hand side. And what it's showing here is extraction of raw materials. So from sourcing to manufacturing, assembly, and retail. And then at the top of the hill is the consumer, where we purchase the product to use. And this is the moment where our products are at its highest value. And then once we are done with the product or get bored of the product, the value of that product gets destroyed. And this is where a product then begins to reach its end of life, often ending up in landfill. But when we consider a circular alternative, what we see is that we actually want to think about product designing from the get-go. So here, right from the beginning, we're thinking about material selection and efficiency. before it gets to the consumer. And once the product gets to the consumer, instead of the product having its value destroyed, what we really want to do is retain its value as much as possible, and find ways in which we can start closing the loops. And this really speaks to ideas of repair and maintenance, reusing, redistributing, refurbishing, and remanufacturing and recycling. And these are all the 10R strategies. So I think by now we're all aware that there are 3Rs: reduce, reuse, recycle. But in the circular economy, we have 10Rs. And what you can see over here is that the first 3 really speak to smarter material use and product design. And then from 4 to 10, it goes into product life extension and maximizing material use. And I think what's quite interesting is today, with our entrepreneurs, we've got Scubu that reduces packaging waste through refill stations. We've got LiquidGold that is transforming organic waste into fertilizer and animal feed, which is really about repurposing. And then we've got Urban Surfers that's recycling high-value materials with waste reclaimers. And then just a little bit about why the circular economy is great for business and entrepreneurs. It provides new revenue models. It is great for resource efficiency and cost saving. There are many innovation opportunities available, and we also get the reduced environmental impact as well as regeneration of our natural systems. So yeah, that's me. Just before we end, for those of you who are new to Circular South Africa, we'd love for you to join our circular economy ecosystem. And there's a few ways that you can do that on our platform. The first is really to become a member or partner, which is free. And if you are wanting to learn more about the circular economy, you can access our Knowledge Hub. We have also just launched a Circular Economies Fundamentals course, so please check that out. And if you're looking for examples and opportunities, we have more than 270 case studies, as well as a finance database with funding instruments that you can have a look at for you and your business. So thank you so much. And I'm now going to be handing over to Gabriella from Nedbank, who's going to speak to us a little bit more about the Nedbank ReNEW program.
Thank you, Gabriella. Hope you can hear me. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Nedbank, it's really a pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of all our partners. So just a bit of context, I'll leave the heavy lifting of the updates to Max. But just for a bit of context, we launched the Nedbank ReNEW program. When we did so, we set out to tackle 2 of South Africa's most pressing challenges, which is youth unemployment and environmental sustainability. And today is, I guess, a collective opportunity for us to pause, reflect, and take stock of the journey so far, focusing on 3 of our business cases. And this for us provides an opportunity to reflect on the lessons learned that are emerging from implementation, and to also collectively consider how we can strengthen and scale what is working within the 3 business cases that we're going to see later on. And this progress for us, I guess, would not be possible without the strong collaboration of our partners, also including Impact Amplifier, and all the other stakeholders who continue to contribute their expertise, their times, and their commitments towards this kind of work. I always like reflecting on this program and the updates with the reflection that the Nedbank ReNEW program is not meant to, or it was not designed to be just a program or a project. It was meant to be a platform for that has environmental, economic, and generational transformation in mind. So I think it would be good to reflect on today with that lens in mind. So welcome to all of you. And yeah, looking forward to fruitful discussions today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gabriella. I would love to hand over to Max. Max, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Max.
I was I was
Hi.
I was chatting away to myself. Thank you, Gabby. Gabby, thank you for the opportunity. It's great to have 79 people online today. And yeah, if any of you want to join the Nedbank ReNEW program WhatsApp community and group and get more updates as the program and the funding deploys, please click on the link in the chat. And maybe just as a way of introduction to who Impact Amplifier is before updates on the program. Impact Amplifier was established in 2011, and our core premise was that we saw the increasing socioeconomic and ecological fractures that were happening not only in South Africa but across the continent, and that we felt that governments and civil society and multinationals were not necessarily equipped to create the change and essentially enable the systems change required for what was coming. And we felt that entrepreneurs were going to play a meaningful role as we shift from our old 20th century industrialized systems to a 21st century digital and potentially decentralized system. And we saw this happening across every area and sector and thematic of life, from food and agriculture to health to education to waste, energy. All of this needed to be solved with essentially new innovations, new technologies, and new economic actors that would come in. And we felt that many of them would be small and early stage, and they would need a long time to redesign and integrate their innovations into the systems to come. And from that basis, our perspective was that there was this real need for new entrepreneurs to come into the market and new supplies of capital. So really our mission is to try and find these new innovations, accelerate them, and provide the capital velocity that they require to essentially then participate in the institutional and traditional economy with commercial banks like Nedbank. So we're really there to really support that. And our work is split between acceleration programs like this and advisory and impact measurement teams that sit along these accelerators alongside deploying capital. And we have two types of capital. We have grant capital through our donor advised funds, and then we have returnable capital through our FSCA registered asset management team. So really the combination of capital and capacity, we felt in where capital supply was missing, which would we call pre-series A or pre-rounds of 15 to 20 million rand, was really where we started working. And our work has taken us through our South African team, which is headquartered in Cape Town, into Southern Africa, through the South African team, and we also work in Central and West Africa through our Nigerian team that's based in Lagos and Abuja. And obviously at the cornerstone of all of this that we see all the time are the waste, energy, and water systems that have just not been able to keep up with the scale of demand and need due to heavy urbanization over the last 30 to 40 years. So this initiative with Nedbank is very proud for us because we have in one token an offtake partner in a bank where we can do some of the very early stage heavy lifting with the companies. And as they grow and as they mature, they can also become banking clients and find themselves going into the business banking, corporate banking, and ultimately, which we would love to see, the corporate finance and commercial investment banking side of banks. And coming from banks myself, I really saw this, and I can see where that capital gap is clear. And this initiative, which was really a co-design between Nedbank and ourselves, is really there to try and tackle that. And I'll just quickly share screen, which is a bit of a presentation, and I'll just give a couple headlines on that, if that's okay, Gabby.
That's perfect. Thanks.
The Nedbank team hasn't seen this, but it's taking a presentation form. Can all of you see my screen? The bright green.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so this initiative, the Nedbank ReNEW program, is really there to support the early stage circular economy ventures. It's there for post-revenue companies. They can be for-profit, they can be non-profit, they can be hybrid. We really don't mind, but they have to be South African, a majority South African owned. And secondly, there's this very interesting intersection in the circular economy between the environment, the resource base, and jobs. And we think because of our young population in South Africa, the Nedbank ReNEW program really wants to play at that intersection, i.e. we want to find innovations that really can tackle both. It can scale itself up into circular systems, process waste, and take new inputs into the market, but at the same time also enable the massive and looming youth unemployment that we have in South Africa. What we're primarily here to do in this round over the sort of the next 12 months is accelerate at least 30 companies. We've actually taken close to 100 through the acceleration program. And what we did is we split the cohort between a group program that was virtual and online, and it had a learning management system connected to it. And then what we have is a one-on-one base of entrepreneurs that get very bespoke support. And right now, what we're at is we're getting to the completion of the group program. We are finished with most of the one-on-one entrepreneurs, and we're starting to deploy capital into at least 10 of them. It'll probably be 12 or 13. And as part of that, also start showcasing, like we are today in various formats, some of the innovations that are coming out, which we think are some of the top tier innovations in South Africa that really need to get to that next stage of maturity as they grow. We'll be announcing who they are over the coming weeks. And I wanted to just share one last update or two updates that will be coming. Secondly, we will be launching an ecosystem map soon. So we will be launching a map of the circular system in South Africa with the early stage startups, the investors in circularity globally and or on the continent who are investing in South Africa. And we'll also be looking at all the intermediaries like ourselves, like Circular South Africa, like the universities, who play in the circular system. Expect that over the coming months alongside the announcements of the funding. And I want to maybe just share one other opportunity which is open to the cohort in this round. We had one of our companies fall out of the one-on-one program, and we have a little bit of extra capital to reallocate. And one of the issues we found in the circular system, in the funds we deploy and acceleration programs we support, is that many of them are operating in silos, i.e. they would be operating separately all over the province, and many of them haven't been incentivized to collaborate between each other. So what we're just opening as a little bit of a pilot to either the group cohort or the one-on-one cohort is that if you have a collaboration within the cohort between each other, i.e. there might be a technology provider here and you want to deploy that technology into a different province through another recycling company or circular economy company, we'll look at piloting a small amount of money alongside our group cohorts, which is the smaller validation to validate that. So We'll write this up on the WhatsApp groups, but really what we're just looking for is a one-pager between who are the 2 cohort members out of the 100 group, all the one-on-ones that are working together, and what are they wanting to achieve in the pilot. And then we'll allocate a little bit of money towards them so that they can collaborate between them. And we'll look at that as a pilot to some of the outcomes that we need to achieve. And one of the things we need to achieve is we need to create about 120 jobs over the next 30 months between the funding that we're deploying. So I'll stop there. Gabby, I know I'm probably overstung my timer, but I think that's all from the updates on our side. And if you need any more information, jump onto the WhatsApp group. The ecosystem map will be launched. The new ReNEW mini site will be launched soon. And we'll share a lot of things there. And then we'll be talking to the communities around the funding opportunity as well.
Thank you so much, Max. That was a great update and really exciting to see. So Urban is just struggling a little bit with connecting to the call. So could I ask maybe Orion, are you available to share your screen and present to start?
Yeah, sure, Gabby, no problem.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. And then Sifiso, you can hop on after that. But I will leave it to you now. Very excited to hear your presentation.
Thank you. Give me a second. Good afternoon, everyone. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
All right, brilliant. My name is Orion Herman. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called LiquidGold Africa. And we pretty much play within the circular economy of organic waste. So we've been established since 2018. We're both environmental as well as social in terms of our business. We operate on a 4,000 square meter facility in Pinetown, KZN. And yeah, I'm excited to share what we're doing and the progress we've made so far. It's a privilege to be part of the Nedbank ReNEW program. I've been affiliated with Max and his team. I'm quite acquainted with their team and understanding the work they've done, and are absolutely fabulous. So yeah, let's just share a bit of our journey. So as mentioned, we were established in 2018. So we primarily play within the circular economy. We looked at both different sort of regions of the circular economy. We've built intervention around waste management. We've fundamentally, from a social perspective, we've built intervention around sanitation innovation, where we were able to create Africa's first nutrient recovery depot. It's an off-grid nutrient recovery machine that fundamentally takes waste from humans and turns it into biological fertilizer. But then as our journey continued, we found that organic waste and kitchen waste was a mass volume and a very interesting space for us to play, because not only were we collecting human waste, we were also collecting kitchen waste. And then we implemented different technologies around that to create new products associated to that. So we introduced what we called an insect waste management platform alongside our human waste platform as well, and therefore collecting waste from different communities, different retailers to produce biological products. But let me show you what that looks like. So our approach was pretty much looking at the existing problems. I mean, there's 30 million tons of waste that lands up on our landfill every single year. 27% of that is organic waste, kitchen waste that comes from retailers, your own kitchen, that fundamentally lands up on the waste, and all this valuable nutrients gets soaked up into the environment. It increases the methane. So we've been able to do source separation at the beginning of pipe, and been able to divert that waste at source to create new additional products, but not only accelerate the process by following Mother Nature's way of doing things. So our biotechnology, so we have what we call an insect waste management facility. So we got a colony of about 20 tons at the moment, currently as we speak. So this is an insect that currently consumes organic waste at massive and rapid scale. So to give you an example, we use a black soldier fly larvae, and they consume a ton of waste. 20 kilograms of them consumes a ton of waste within a day. So it's a lot faster in terms of intervention. We're currently on about 20 tons of waste that comes through to our facility every single week. And we are then able to produce alternative products. One of them is an insect meal. We also have a dried popped larvae, and then we have a defatted meal. So we're able to extract the oils from the larvae because they're high in protein, high in fats, and we're able to now we're testing with certain universities the application for these oils in the cosmetic as well as the bio fuel industry. But fundamentally, we've taken on organic waste and processed it through an accelerated biotech and created alternative products for animal feed. Because if you look at where feed is coming from a protein perspective, it's soy as well as fish meal, which is very environmentally intensive, where our fish meal as well as plant protein is an alternative, and the benefits thereof has been, highly lucrative as well as highly beneficial. Further to that, guys, I did make mention with regards to the fact that we did, from a social perspective, have social innovation. So what you're looking at here is what we call the diamond reactor. This machine converts urine into fertilizer. So not only are we able to collect kitchen waste, but we're also able to process community sanitation waste. Instead of it going all to landfill or wastewater treatment plants or landing up on our grid, we're then able to deploy this technology. It's completely off the grid. And fundamentally, for every 98 liters of urine, it collects 1 kilogram of a biological fertilizer for agriculture. So all of the waste, for example, within communities that do not have access to sanitation, we're now able not only to deploy intervention, but deploy resources or humans into, as waste management teams to collect the waste, process and help us process the waste to, keep it off the grid, but fundamentally create new supply chains on that. On your very far left image, you'll see a blue urinal. That is actually called a wee stand, which is actually a urinal for both males and females, because most women are taught not to sit or touch the technology. So we've built a technology that sort of, no intimate, no touch, no engagement, but allows women to urinate safely without touching the technology and in complete privacy, therefore allowing us to optimize the waste resource on that. Just to give you a perspective on how this works. So currently at the moment, we are collecting from communities, we are collecting waste from retailers, we are collecting waste from pack houses. To give you an example, like Food Lovers Market, we have a resource which is fundamentally important. As mentioned, we have a waste entrepreneur based at site doing source separation of the waste. So when we receive the waste at our plant, we get a completely source separated waste, but also creating green jobs in the process. It just allows our process to be a lot more efficient, be a lot more faster, and decreases our costs. So as the waste comes through, we shred that waste and then we feed it into a biological process. Everything is separated at source, and nothing is kept together. And then we also define what is high quality waste, what is low quality waste, and the application thereof. So what fundamentally comes out of our process within the 7 to 10 day process of receiving that waste, we do get live larvae, we get insect-based protein, we get fertilizer, and we get a vermicompost from the process, allowing us then to push these products back into retail, back into farmers, also to small-scale chicken backyard farmers, for example. All right, so what problem do we fundamentally solve as an organization? Again, as mentioned, access to alternative waste management solutions. Instead of doing your traditional bio or digesters, now you have an insect waste management facility. You're also able to reduce the waste going to landfill, especially on the organic element. Also, you're also able then to recover the valuable nutrients that would have been sitting in our landfills, causing a whole lot of nutrification downstream that causes impact on that. But also now you are also able to unlock new revenue streams from net waste fees to circular economy of selling alternative proteins as well as fertilizer, and creating green jobs within this space. Right, so we then, from a back-end perspective, or the products that come out of our process, and this is the brand we sell everything under, which is called the Pure Gold brand. So fundamentally, as mentioned, we get the compost, we get the frass, which is the insect fertilizer, you get the dried nibbles, you get the live feed, and then you get the meal, which will go into aqua feed, dog food, horse feed, pig feed. So there's a whole lot of application range associated to that. So again, what would have fundamentally landed up on landfill now gets reprocessed and repurposed and repositioned and as a premium brand protein into our agriculture space. So why insects? We believe that insects form a very, very important part of the waste management stream. So there's plant-based protein, but there's insect protein. Insect protein is very, very low on water usage as well, low energy requirements, especially in warmer climates like ours in Durban. We use a lot less land in order to process this. And also, it allows us to provide our customers with detailed reporting on traceability of the product, the processing, the ESG elements, especially with your corporate clients looking for circular economy solutions. We pretty much fit square into this in resolving a pain problem for corporates with regards to the ESG policies. So the benefits of this, as mentioned, guys, from an environmental perspective, reduction of waste, reduction of carbon, soil improvement, because now you're fundamentally following nature's way of doing things. And by adding insects waste back into the soil, you're fundamentally improving the soil health and regenerative agriculture as well. Certain regions around the world, we've seen that insect-based solutions work primarily well in the southern globe, where temperatures are warmer. So therefore allowing us to become frontline players in this space and producing an alternative protein for the globe, but also biodiversity and health, being able to helping reduce waste at landfills. We're also then improving our supply chain management. We're also improving our water as well in terms of offlet. But fundamentally, we're talking about a triple B bottom line in terms of people, planet, and resources. All right, so why liquid gold? In terms of this, we've been playing in this market for quite some time. We've pivoted quite a few times within the space, but we fundamentally believe we hit the sweet spot with regards to identifying the supply chain of waste, the types of waste, and how fundamentally we can process it at a low value cost, and ensuring that we do have valuable products that come from our process. It does take some time to grow it, but it also takes a lot of energy and a lot of patience by approving your model, but also being able to explain your story and the narrative. And you find a lot of guys have a lot of pain points around this, but I've been able to map out the ecosystem and been able to offer low-cost solutions of saving the client, producing a low-cost protein, but also then being able to have a social justice according to that. So please, guys, if you have any other questions, please reach out to me. You can reach us at info@liquidgold.co.za to understand more about us. We are a passionate team in KZN, and any questions, we welcome it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for an amazing presentation and all the work that you're doing. I'm actually quite blown away. So yeah, amazing.
Thank you so much.
Just for the purposes of timekeeping, I'm going to move on to Sifiso. Everybody, if you've got questions, please pop them into the Q&A, and then we'll address them all at the end. So now, can I just invite Sifiso to please share your screen, Solon, and go ahead with your presentation.
There it is. Can you see my screen?
Yes, that's perfect.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Let me also open up my camera.
Great.
What a great presentation, and I must say, you guys are doing amazing work.
Thank you.
Lovely. Should I begin?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, everyone who is joining us. My name is Sifiso Gumbi. I'm the director of Urban Surfer. Urban Surfer is a social enterprise that works in uplifting and empowering informal reclaimers. My journey also started out as an informal reclaimer, and that's where I learned the value that's hidden in waste. So through that experience, it has since shaped the way I understand the need to support reclaimers, to provide them with dignity and opportunity in recycling. So today I form part of this amazing organization that builds practical systems to support reclaimers, through inclusion, structure, and fair remuneration. Oh, there you go. So today I just want to present to you how we are closing the loop, in the circular economy. And we are doing this by including the main volume drivers on the ground, just a bit of detail and background. Currently we have a large crisis of landfills here in Gauteng, with the city of Johannesburg alone producing about 1.6 million tons on an annual basis. Only 7 to 12% of that recyclable, of that waste material produced by the municipality is recycled. And that is a very, very, very small number. 80 to 90% of the waste that gets recovered and recycled is due to the efforts of informal reclaimers, you know. So the common view, I'd just like to take you through it in materials, you know, it includes, you know, collecting, sorting, recycling, reuse, and manufacture again. So this view is incomplete because it excludes the people who are collecting on a daily basis, sorting on a daily basis, and making sure that the waste actually gets recycled and reused and is then used in enabling the manufacturing of new packaging material into the environment. You know, so in this regard, we decided as an organization that, you know, a material loop cannot exist on paper, you know, while the system around it, which is the waste pickers, is broken and barely unrecognized, you know. So the people that are recovering the material, if the people that are recovering the material stay poor, unsafe and invisible, you know, the loop is not truly closed or inclusive. So closing the loop for us, what it should mean is that there should be dignity for the human engine in the circular economy. You know, closing the loop is about materials, but it is also about the people. Circular systems fail when, you know, reclaimers are excluded, and that's exactly the point that we are highlighting as an organization. So we work through four pillars, you know, which is what we believe should be what an inclusive circular loop should look like. You know, there should be the recovery of materials, of course, the recognition of reclaimers, fair remuneration of reclaimers, and reporting, you know, that proves impact. So we cover all of those aspects, and I'll take you through it as I expand into the presentation. Informal reclaimers already, you know, drive the recycling volumes, as I mentioned. You know, their street level collection fits the value chain. They're the most consistent form of, you know, recycling collection. You know, they do this with little support. You see them with makeshift trolleys. You see them with balaclavas. Hardly any PPE on. You know, these are the people that rely on waste streams for their livelihoods. And I think I could think of easier ways of making money. And one of them would be, I'd say, blowing up ATMs or any other form of petty crime. But these people choose not to. They'd rather get their hands dirty. They'd rather dig through a bin. And these are the people that we are very active in supporting. So how do we do that? And what is it that we do as Urban Surfer? You know, we turn waste pickers collection efforts into a supported system. You know, we provide them with collection equipment, we provide them with PPE, and we provide them with a visible identity. And not only that, we provide them with sorting and baling hubs because we recognize the need for waste pickers to have working facilities. We provide them with training and support. And all of our projects that we get into in collaboration with waste pickers have a measurability system that is included in them. So we are very big on data-driven reporting. We give reclaimers better access to buyers and work opportunities. And we also do community engagements and initiatives in order to, you know, help the public understand the work that they do because they are essential environmental champions. We provide them with collection trolleys, you know, such as the trolleys you see on the picture. And, you know, one of the things we notice is that because waste pickers are so unrecognized and there's a whole stigma around them in the public, we saw that, you know, once you give them a PPE, they have a better look to them. They are more approachable. Give them a better trolley, it just formalizes the work that they do. And, you know, just provision of these two essential items, a trolley and proper PPE, we have seen the result having such beautiful benefits to them, with people now starting to, you know, even call them to come collect recyclable material from their backyards, you know, businesses inviting them to come and service, you know, their waste areas And this has significantly helped the waste pickers start to make more money. We currently have 4 recycling hubs, one in Tembisa, one in Randburg, one in Parktown, and another one in Randfontein. These recycling hubs are working facilities that we provide them as working facilities. The city of Johannesburg has a big crisis with a lot of informal recycling camps that are mushrooming up in all the neighborhoods. This is largely due to the fact that waste pickers have to travel a long distance, from their respective townships to go and look for waste. So if I'm collecting, say, for instance, in Sandton, it is quite difficult for a person to then pull a trolley back to Soweto. So naturally, they look for an alternative, place to store their recyclables, sort their recyclables, and sell their recyclables at a later stage. So we brought in the solution of recycling hubs as a measure to address that need for reclaimers. And our biggest hub right now is in Randfontein in collaboration with the Randburg City Local Municipality. That recycling hub gives access to equipment, storage space, and sorting space to over 300 reclaimers. We are also working with the Impact Accelerator team, powered by Nedbank, to set up an additional facility within the city of Johannesburg to have another recycling hub that would potentially empower about 500 more waste pickers within the next 3 to 5 years. We are quite big on training and all the reclaimers that we work with, because it is quite essential for them to understand the different kinds of hazardous materials that they deal with on a daily basis. We also provide training for them so that we introduce them to new recycling waste streams like e-waste. And we are hoping that, after such a lovely presentation from LiquidGold, there can also be an opportunity where waste pickers are also integrated into the organic waste side of things, and they are also able to benefit from that. So we conduct constant trainings, to expose them to new opportunities and to further formalize the waste pickers on how they can integrate into a more formalized waste management system. Our solution, as I mentioned, is data-driven. We are very big on reporting on all the recycling volumes that the waste pickers bring in at all of our facilities. The trolleys that we roll out to the reclaimers are fitted with GPS trackers so that we know how far a waste picker goes on a daily basis. We also capture the information on what materials reclaimers are collecting, how much they're getting from each material, and how that is directly affecting their monthly earnings. So through the capturing of this data, we have noticed that the reclaimers that we support, there's been a significant increase in their income because they are more formalized and they have better access to opportunities. I'll make an example of one of our recycling hubs in Parktown. When we started, the guys at the hub were earning about 1,500 Rand a month, 2,000 Rand if you're lucky. But now we've seen a very big improvement with the guys earning up to 8,500 Rand a month. We are hoping to, use all this data in future to package it and perhaps collaborate with a verification partner and introduce our reclaimers to the carbon credit system or even the plastic credit system so that they can they can start earning from that as well. We are also working quite closely with public responsibility organizations such as Polyco, Fiber Circle, and the Glass Recycling Company. And through that collaboration with the Glass Recycling Company, because they were so impressed with the way we report on data, they asked for us to provide or build an application that pays waste picker incentives. And that application, we are working with over 800 waste pickers. And so far, we've collected more than 2 million kilograms, and we have paid out incentives directly to waste pickers to the tune of 1.5 million Rand. We also offer corporate waste management solutions where we recruit our vast network of reclaimers and bring them into structured waste management spaces by working with private corporates. We offer this service to mostly commercial buildings, private sector property owners. We also service events like your Corona Sunsets. We also help reclaimers to have better offtakes in the market. Our most recent offering with the corporate waste management solution has seen us being awarded our very first major contract with Growth Point Properties. We are currently servicing Woodlands Business Park, and we've been tipped to apply for the national tender. This solution, we are hoping to at least expand within the next 5 years to get into at least 500 buildings. And with each site, we are hoping to employ at least 4 or 5 reclaimers. Currently at Woodlands, we have 4 reclaimers that are currently employed. And in the next 5 years, we are hoping to grow that number and potentially employ maybe up to 5,000 reclaimers into the corporate waste management side of things, where they can make more money and have a more stable income. Our community engagements include river cleanups. We do charity events. We do any other, formal events that there is in the community. This we do just to help waste pickers have a presence or recognized presence in the community, and to actually sensitize people to see, the essential work that, our environmental workers, Abakarezi, do for the environment. We have a great relationship with the public responsibility organizations. Like I mentioned, we're working with the Gauteng province, city of Johannesburg to be specific. We have an MOU with them to advance the green agenda for the next 3 years. We work with the Santi Class recycling company, as I did mention. I think the only logo that is missing here is the impact amplifier on Nedbank. Our work has been covered quite extensively in the media. So I would invite everyone to just please look us up. I recently also did a TED Talk. It's on YouTube. So please, if you do find time, have a look at that. I added a slide just for the few accolades we've been recognized with. Won the Gold Award for Ecological Innovator 2023, 2024, Young Environmentalist of the Year 2024, and Entrepreneur of the Year, which was last year with Petco Awards. I think we've come to the end of our presentation. That is essentially what Urban Surfer is about. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was also just such an incredibly inspiring story, and I love that the solutions you have really center the reclaimers at the heart of it, and I think that's incredibly meaningful. So thank you. Just a reminder, if you guys have any questions, pop them into the Q&A. And then Urban, I just want to check in with you. Are you able to put your camera on, unmute, share your screen?
Yeah, let's see. Can you guys all hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
And
Great.
I can see
Okay.
the screen perfectly. Great.
Is my camera on? I can't see myself. I'm assuming it's on.
Yes,
Yes,
it's
your
on.
camera's on.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, thanks for inviting me in. So guys, I am the founder and MD of Sonke Retail and its subsidiary Skubu. And we design, manufacture, and manage smart refill stores that save money and the planet. So I started Sonke to solve a very specific problem. And the problem is that it's expensive to be poor. So in fact, the 34 million South Africans that live below the poverty line of $2.40 a day pay up to twice the price for their consumer goods and generate up to 1,200% more waste, because they can't always afford the bigger pack sizes. And as you trade down in pack size, it gets significantly more expensive. and you also generate a lot more waste. So it's really the worst of the worst option. And we call this the poverty tax. So if you look at an example of this, if you look at Sunfoil and you compare the 5 litre bulk price point to the 375 smallest pack size, the small pack size trades at a 96% premium and it generates 1,000% plus more waste. And you see that same pattern emerging across all of FMCG. So Sunlight, no exception there. You've got the 5 litre compared to the 100 ml smallest pack size, massive discrepancies in cost and packaging. So to solve that, you have to do two things. Firstly, you have to get the bulk price point. So we do that through our trader to consumer model. So you try and shorten that value chain as much as possible. And second thing is you have to remove the packaging. And if you do those two things right, then you solve both of the problems that we mentioned earlier, which is the cost and the environmental impact. So historically, what we've done is we design, manufacture, and manage these refill stations. So these stations we place inside of formal retailers like ShopRite, Pick n Pay, Spar. So the shopper would arrive with their own packaging. They would select the pack size that they want. They would then press start. The bottle will fill up and we print out a barcode sticker with expiry date and batch numbers and everything else on there. And then the shopper would pay at the till point. So everybody sees the hardware and the hardware is great. We own all of the IP there. So we design the printed circuit boards that you see there. That's our own internal design. But the software is really where a lot of the competitive advantage sits. So our software shows us live sales tracking. It shows us when we need to replenish. It gives you live stock holding. It tells you if a machine is online or offline. And it also enables us to do remote firmware updates. So if you ever need to do any changes, you can do that from anywhere in the world. And then also it gives us full traceability. So it's something really important when it comes to your food safety, is that you have that information available. And then taking all that information and placing it onto a dashboard that you can very easily manage the business with. So in terms of traction, we've got over 80 of those refill stations across 3 countries. Most of them are actually in Gauteng, as you can see by the map. So that's kind of what we call the legacy part of the business. So what's next? So next is we vertically integrated with this is this is a design for the world's first fully automated refill store, and then this is the execution of that store. The first one launched in May last year, and that's in Diepsloot. This was 16 refill stations. The second store launched in November of last year. So this is now 35 refill stations instead of the 16. And then very recently we launched what we call Skubunyana. So for those that don't know, like Kasi slang, that means like a small one or a little bit of. So this is the baby of the family. And that's what it looks like at night, and then that's during the day. So the idea here is to get even closer to the shopper. You should also drop your fixed costs a bit so that you're not linked to only a formal mall. So your rental is a little bit better, and you have some labor advantages as well. And your shopper also benefits from not having to pay transport. Yeah, so this is only about 11 days old. Well, actually, no, it's 2 weeks old tomorrow. So we're really happy with how that's progressing. And then, yeah, I think always nice to chat a little bit about the team. So I have an amazing team. So it's myself, Mr. Elias, is the old old bull in the kraal. Make sure that we all toe the line. 35 years experience. Really lucky to have him on board. Then we've got Vatiswa and Aubrey leading operations, and then the technical side of things. Really proud about both V and Aubrey. If you look at our youth upliftment program on the bottom right, we run an ongoing internship, and both of these two candidates came through that program. So for us, we really are an impact company beyond only offering better prices and the environmental benefits. We really try and uplift people as well internally in the business. And we have some really exciting plans as we scale up to do more of that in the communities where we operate, where we don't necessarily want to run all the stores. If we can get our technology into the hands of the community and economically empower people, that's really first prize. And we see that as the third component. So first component would be savings to the shopper. Second would be environmental impact. And the third is economic inclusion. We want to do all three of those. And then we also have a really strong advisory board and consultants in place. And yeah, that is us. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Eben. Again, just a third wonderful, super inspiring presentation. I'm in awe of all three of you. And I'm sure the rest of everyone who's on this webinar is too. So congratulations on how far you all are on your journeys. Max, I'd love you to jump in and provide a few comments if you want before we get into the Q&A.
Yeah, sure. So, folks, I think you're getting a sense of where we're going in Nedbank ReNEW. We've known Orion and Eben for quite a while in Impact Amplifier as well. So, I'm married into a Russian-Ukrainian family, and they say trust but verify. And these two folks have been definitely verified, right? They really are top draw, I think, of what we need in South Africa. I definitely, from our perspective, we deploy smaller amounts of money first and then larger. And I think both of them are definitely there amongst many other South Africans to what we could and can do in South Africa. I do think, just as a passing comment, we're at a very interesting time geopolitically at this moment in South Africa for circular businesses, where I think we're going into a period of higher interest rates, bigger inflation with the war in Iran. And also there's a major opportunity and shift, which maybe speaks to LiquidGold at the moment, around the movement from your petroleum-based fertilizers towards biologicals, just because of the sheer shortage and the lack of supply. So I think we're at an accelerated phase in the system. But one of the hardest things that we have right now in South Africa, which is where Sifiso comes in, is that our poor are really getting squeezed. And we're going to see that in transport costs with fuel costs. We're going to see that, and we are seeing that in inflation, especially in winter. So what I'm most interested in circularity is the convergence of higher value unit economics, passing more value to people on the ground who are low income. And now Sifiso tackles this from trying to pass as much higher income to waste pickers. Eben does this from reducing the cost to low-income customers, because he's absolutely right. If you're poor, it's the most expensive place to be in the world, and you can just imagine what the lending market is doing in townships right now to some of these folks, and that excludes extortion that's happening in our townships, right? So that's just maybe my passing comment to everyone, and I'm hoping that if we can make more investments into these folks, we can start to really figure out how we shift the unit economics and push more margin into low-income communities.
Thanks so much, Max. Okay, I'm gonna just move on to the Q&A. If anybody does want to ask a question, you're also welcome to raise your hand, and you can put on your video and unmute so we can have a nice conversation. But I just see one that's popped up in the chat here for Orion, which is, what are the opportunities available for SMMEs in the business that you are in, specifically if one wants to establish the facility in Gauteng?
Yeah, great. So as Max mentioned earlier, there's a lot of opportunities to link. I think when it comes to the circular economy, working in silos, it doesn't really work. So I've been able to collaborate so that we can expand faster and move faster. So that's why we sort of evolved the tech from a understanding where the IP is and the technology, and how do we transition this into different provinces. So, and that's going to happen through like collaboration. So there's different opportunity to create collaboration with guys in Joburg and Cape Town and different regional provinces. So being able to move through joint ventures would be actually easy. Then it's being able to deploy or come on site. Because, like, for example, like one of our challenges are we getting corporate partners that want us to, be pretty much based everywhere, but it's always a capacity issue. So by being able to collaborate with small SMEs will allow us to move a lot faster from that perspective. Knowledge transfer can happen. It also reduces our operations cost. So absolutely. So we companies like ourselves are always willing to engage, talk, and we sort of can see how we can map that out.
Amazing, thank you. And then there was another question from Claire, and she says that you said purchasing decisions are being based on how brands handle waste management, and she's asking if you can expand on this.
Yeah, I actually wanted to answer that, Claire. I just couldn't respond to you. But to give you a perfect scenario within our case, so one of our customers export their products out into the EU market. And one of the main questions was, what are you doing around waste management? Can we look at what you're doing? Literally, that customer came on site to their facilities to look at what they were doing from a waste management perspective, or was it just normal landfill diversion? So you're finding now that being able to operate in certain markets, they're looking at your entire operations, including waste management. So if you are incorporating a circular economy or alternative waste management solution that talks to going green and more sustainable, it actually gives the brands a little bit more buying power from an ESG perspective. So we find that's where we come in, sort of help on that pain point, because some of the waste management solutions can become quite costly and therefore not viable. So looking at alternatives become key, and how does it affect the brand's bottom line? So we understanding that there is now a buying power or purchasing power when they're looking at whatever we're doing with our waste streams. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, Claire, can you let us know if that answered the question? Thank you so much. And then I see a question which I think was directed to Spiso, which was, where in Tembisa is your, I think, one of your recycling hubs?
It's in Montsu in Tembisa.
Okay, cool.
Okay, that's quite a short answer. It's a short question. It's in Montsu.
Yeah, it's a very short answer.
Yeah, it's in Montsu in Tembisa. But I mean, please feel free to reach out to me. If you're in Tembisa and you would like to perhaps connect or bring some recyclables, I'm more than happy to assist.
Cool. And then let me just unmute you, Sibusiso. I think you should be able to chat and ask your question.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
Thanks for a great session, and the guys you brought, Sfiso and Orion. I actually met Sfiso at the Green Building Council in October. A very, very humble guy. Sfiso, in your industry, particularly in the townships, with regards to there's an issue of drug use, a lot associated with the waste pickers in our townships. Are you looking to, obviously there's NGOs that are playing in that space, but I think since you are much closer to them, sometimes it's a matter of engaging with the guys and, you know, a little bit of education here and there. Is it something that you're looking to get into? Because I think it does affect your particular industry in terms of image and all.
That is a very good question. So we are looking to partner with organizations like Action Aid. We're actually raising funds as it is, trying to apply for grants that we take care of that certain aspect. But luckily, you know, a lot of the reclaimers, if not all of them, on our database that we work with are well-meaning, sober-minded people, all within our database. But I do admit there is a challenge of, you know, a lot of substance abusers seeing recycling as an easy way of, you know, feeding the habit. I mean, it only makes sense. The only thing they need to do is just get, you know, a few waste material here and there, you know, go get a fix. But the number of such individuals is relatively quite low compared to the many reclaimers. You can go to any biopic center. I think out of 100 reclaimers, maybe you'll come across 2 junkies. You know, but that is something we are actually actively exploring, you know, to address. But it falls a little bit outside of our scope.
Sure.
But provided the opportunity and the support, we'd be more than happy to include that in our training and engagement activity.
Okay, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Great. And then Wendile, I'm going to allow your mic, so you're welcome to jump in.
Good day. My question, it is for Orion. Orion, I saw that your products, they work in soil health. My curiosity is, how does it work around carbon credits?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. So with regards to carbon credits, so how we're measuring at the moment is just based on the tonnage of waste that is kept off the landfill. That's how we work off. So for every ton of organic waste that does go to landfill and the amount of emissions that is you know, sort of released from that perspective. So that's how we calculate our carbon from the offset on that side. Then there's also carbon that you're reintroducing back into the soil. So there's a product called FRAS that comes from the process, and that's got a 60% carbon element associated to it. So for every ton that we produce, you're looking at 60% carbon reintroduction into the soil. So that we, you know, that's how we calculate our carbon reduction and our carbon, our carbon reintroduction.
Okay, can I just ask you a last follow-up question in regards to that? In terms of measuring it, sorry, I'm asking because we are also into carbon credits.
Yeah.
So in terms of measuring and the pyrolysis that you guys use, right? I don't want you to give me everything, just a little bit of how you guys work around that. That is the calculation and how your pyrolysis to trap the carbon works.
Okay, so we outsource that to a company. They call Carbon Credits. They are based out in the UK. So they've done a feasibility study around our carbon credits. So actually they know the back end of that. So I'll tell you what, if you're able to email me directly, and then I'll be able to get more information on that. So what we had to do was just to provide how much tonnage is going off the grid. They've got a formulation back end system that they calculate in terms of tons. So they follow the gold standard formula with regards to organic waste. But when it comes to, you know, the back end in terms of the sort of the complicated metrics, yeah, I'll be able to furnish you that if you email me directly.
Okay, great stuff. I'll definitely email you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And then I do see that there's a question from Lindiwe in the Q&A, but I wonder, Lindiwe, do you want to maybe unmute yourself and chat to Orion about that?
Show us your face as well. We'd love to see you.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone can actually put their videos on. So you're most welcome to do that. I see, Sibusiso, you've got your hand raised up again.
Yes, I just wanted to just maybe ask Eben, with what was or what is the challenge? I mean, you are directly challenging like your big retail organizations directly at their doorstep. What has been the response from big retail? Are you gonna get bought over soon, or what's
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah,
And then just
Yeah.
a last question for Max. Max, obviously the ReNEW program, I'm privileged enough to be part of it. It's quite a very intense and a good program. In terms of growing it outside of your normal SMMEs, taking it down to the school areas and all of that. Are you looking into that, into your high schools or your early education? Because I think there's a gap in that space, particularly in the townships, that what we're trying to do as a secular economy is not being fed into our education system. And I listened to the Minister of Higher Education when he was changing some of the vocational studies. There was so little that is touched on it. Your views on that?
Yeah, so maybe even you go first. I'll
Okay.
go second. Just
Okay,
in
cool.
order.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'll give you a quick answer. So look, we're so small that I don't think that we are a worry for the big guys at all. I think they might be curious, but for reference, our smallest store is about 40 square meters. Our biggest store is 90 square meters. The shop right next door to us is about 2,500 square meters. Okay, so just like for the reference of scale, they've got 2,600 stores versus our 3. And the turnover they make probably in a minute is more than what we make in like 3 months across all of our stores. So just for like the scale. So I think they see it as interesting. And let's see what happens, eh? Let's I think it's early days, eh?
I think I'm gonna buy your share price if it goes if you list. I'll be the first one to buy.
So look, I think the final thing is people see it, and like I think the problem resonates with South Africans, right? So if you look at our social media, you can see people get it. The fact is that we're saving the poorest people up to 60% on maize meal. Okay, so you can figure out that we're not making a lot of money.
Sure.
For us to make a lot of money, we really have to sell crazy volume, but it's not about making money. So for me at least, like how much money is enough? Like for me, it's not about the money, it's about the impact. And as long as we're having an impact, rather make the table longer than the walls higher.
No, sure.
Yeah, it's a funny quagmire, because ultimately as well, even if you have more margin, you can reinvest back into the company as well, so that you get scale. So money and scale are also intertwined, and this is the tightrope you have to walk: is how cheap do your prices go, how sustainable you are, because you also need a capital structure to have the impact that you want at some form of greater scale. So it's always a quagmire. Yeah, so guys, on my side, in this ecosystem of trainers, intermediaries, SMMEs, we do one thing really, really well. We think we can deploy early stage money into what we think are good companies, and we can sort of achieve impacts as CBC in the place that we can. So I think as far as we will stretch we might stretch earlier stage. But you also find that some of our investees are providing recycling into schools. You know, if you look at some of the organizations we've funded, they're taking all the waste to schools and actually providing educational in. So I think some of our beneficiaries and investees will do that work. I agree it's needed. I think we can collaborate with them, but I've also got to understand that when we spread ourselves too thin across our own capability, we end up not having our own impact. So I've got to know where we can stretch as an organization strategically. And what I do know is at this stage of innovation, we can be pretty highly effective, and we've got a lot to grow. If you think about our own scale right now, you know, we can deploy anywhere between 40 and 100 million rand a year. I think there's a R500 million of pipeline that we need to deploy for us to be effective in South Africa. And that's South Africa alone. And I do want to see, even though, for instance, go to Nigeria more. He's already got units, and we've got a team in Nigeria. So, you know, there's stuff there. So I think what we want to do is stay where our core competencies are. But what I would like to do is I would like to pilot the collaboration between folks, because if Ibn needs a space in a province or a town where he can drop one of his containers to put one of his smaller units down, and for instance, let's say Sifiso has access to Jabir Park and he can drop one in, or Orion can put one of his organic waste facilities in there. I think that's the kind of stuff that I think we can widen our impact, besides the volume of money that's going into the companies.
Thank you. I'm just gonna just hand over quick to Katerina for a question, and then to Msizi. You can go after Katerina. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks so much, Gabby. And hi, everyone. I hope you can actually hear me. Fantastic. Yeah, Max, I completely agree with you. And I think this is why I actually love also working with you guys around thinking the wider impact and what to actually deploy on the continent scale as well, because I think there is so much potential and there's so much need for it. But what I actually wanted to ask is, Sifiso, how are you working with Arrow and the other reclaimer associations together? Because I think this is exactly speaking to Max, is like, how do we create an enabling ecosystem across all these different SMEs and the different people that are actually working together? And I can only echo what Max really said before, is like, we do still see there's a lot of silo thinking even within our circular economy ecosystem. And I think this is where so much potential lies and where I'm getting really excited. So maybe, Sifiso, you can just elaborate a little bit on how you guys work with Arrow.
Thank you so much for that, Kat. I think we need as much collaboration as we can, because the space that we operate in, informal recycling, is quite fragmented. Everyone operates as an individual. So organizations like Arrow have really made a difference in setting up a collective. So our relationship with Arrow, through our partnership with Polyco, we've supported them with an allocation of trolleys. I think about 100. Was it 150 trolleys? Yeah, about 100 trolleys that we've allocated to Arrow. They recently got I think funding from the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. So they now have their own trucks, they now have their own facility. So they're basically well established. So our focus right now is really trying to reach all the other, informal reclaimers that remain unsupported, and unestablished. So that's where our focus is right now. We do recognize Arrow as a partner, but I mean, they are quite established. So our main focus is really to reach more reclaimers that are unsupported.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. And then Msizi, you can go ahead. Should be able to unmute.
Mr. Nyembe, you're still on mute.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Well, using that. Perfect day, ladies and gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
Lovely. How are you?
Apologies about that. As I said to park on the side of the road to get my question through. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I've got two questions, and I'm hoping you guys can truly help me with this. First question is, how, as a collective, as entrepreneurs, how can we sort of create a Google of recycling solutions? I'll tell you why. I just came from a meeting now with one of these corporates, and they're looking for a solution for something that they could easily Google. So how do we, as circular entrepreneurs, create a platform where it's easy for these corporates to basically find solutions easily without having to set up meetings like, now, I literally just drove to Kempton Park for something that could have been Googled? That's the first part of my question. How do we make our solutions as entrepreneurs easily and readily available to corporates so that it's a more copy and paste, plug and play type of solutions, not necessarily have to come in, consult, and I won't call it waste time and the sort. The second part of my question is opportunity cost. How do we, as entrepreneurs, I was reading the other night, the Foschini Group is closing 400 of their stores. One of my biggest clients as well, British American Tobacco, is retrenching hundreds of people at the moment. What happens with us as entrepreneurs, we grow to a point and then we sort of shrink back to our core business. How do we, at our early stage, make sure that we are lean and mean and we understand our core business and that we don't end up getting dragged to all parts and business models that are not really sustainable for us, in the sense that, like, I'll give an example with British American Tobacco. Their core business 10 years ago was cigarettes. Their core business now is vaping and that kind of stuff. So they're now shutting down their cigarettes business and now depending on their vaping business. How do we as entrepreneurs now in our early stage not spread ourselves too thin and take on opportunities that can kill us? And I open this question to any of the entrepreneurs on the panel. How do you guys say no? If I could make it a short question, how do you say no to opportunities, and what criteria of prerequisites or qualifications do you use to say no to such opportunities? Thank you. I don't know if my question is being understood.
Thank you so much. Any of the three of you, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I've got a quick comment before we go off. I think Sibusiso did it for me just now. I said, would you go into schools? And I said no. And that's because it's not what growth doesn't come from yes. I think often growth comes from saying no. And it's just in one. When you're an entrepreneur or you're a creative and you see opportunity everywhere, it's exactly that which is what causes you to be overstretched and unable to implement everything. If you've implemented a business really well, let's say and exited a company and you've got your own balance sheet, you can start affording to spreading your time and attention. Because ultimately, if you want to create anything amazing, you need three things. You need time, quality, and money. And if you've got no money, you need the time to get the quality. If you've got money, you can buy in the quality and the time. And unfortunately, if you don't have a big balance sheet and you are early stage, you just can't afford to focus on too much, or else you don't implement anything well.
Maybe I can add to that, Max, because I think that's a question not just applicable to SMEs, also in a sector where we work, which is an NGO. So you also get bombarded with so many requests, and we have to actually really, over the last, I think, 1.5 years as ASIN, we've also made that very strong decision of starting to focus much more on the core of why ASIN was created, to make sure that that's what we can focus on, and then to be that convener and facilitator. But maybe also to mention there are tools out there around market expansion for companies like Ansof's Matrix, right? Which you can apply as an SME to understand, does it make sense to actually expand with the current market trends or doesn't it? And I think it's also like, yes, you might see a lot of opportunities, but the question is also, what does the opportunity deliver back to you? Because sometimes people are very good in keeping you very busy from an administrative side of thing, but you're actually not getting out what you need to get out. And I think this is something, it's almost like a skill that you need to develop as an entrepreneur and as an organization, also as a culture. And it comes back to Max saying no to things as well, which is sometimes really difficult. But you can also obviously facilitate maybe the request to someone else. And it speaks again to that ecosystem building that we need to do within our circular economy ecosystem.
Yeah, just to just to give comments on that. So within our space, we know we have the shiny thing syndrome. So when there's anything new shiny, then you sort of pay attention to. So identify that. But also, what helps me from a framework perspective, I have 3 flow drivers, and I always ask my questions around flow drivers: is it revenue, operations, and scale? Right. So if it's not a part of those flow drivers, then I can easily answer no. It's just an easier framework, because I had the same issue when, starting off, like anything gets you excited. But if you have too many holes and too many buckets, you're burning too many resources. Right. So one bucket, fill up the holes, make sure it's covered before you go into the next bucket. So yeah, that's what helps you. Just identify your flow drivers, and if it doesn't answer what to those flow drivers, move on, and it's okay to say no. And then to your first question with regards to ecosystems, mapping out the ecosystem is important. I think being on programs like this with ReNEW and with Nedbank, because you find a lot of these corporates do bank with them. So this is where we can get the exposure through these programs as an ecosystem of what's available within that space. So access to market is important. We've been able to, golden handshake scenario between corporates of what solutions are available on the ground through entrepreneurs. I think that's an easier way for us to move forward versus going online. Now you have a credible source of solutions that are tangibly working. There's evidence around the solutions, and then we sort of get pushed forward from that perspective. That could be a scenario you can look at.
Thank you so much. We are 5 minutes over, but I think it's been a really, really engaging and inspiring session. And I think, yeah, the rest of my Friday is going to be amazing. I'm just so happy with how this all went. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you to our entrepreneurs. Thank you to Nedbank. Thank you to Impact Amplifier. And we hope to see you at our next Circular Entrepreneur Series, where we'll be featuring another 2 or 3 entrepreneurs on the program. So thank you, everybody, and goodbye, and have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.